Hello, Keller ISD staff and community members. I am making this video for everyone. It's an update about everything that we're doing in Keller ISD for next year, and I felt like this is going to be a huge community effort. Everybody needs to hear the same thing that teachers and parents and students are hearing, that our staff is hearing. So I didn't want to make two separate videos because I think this is all info that everybody needs. So thanks for joining the video and listening to what we're working on for next year. I'm going to quickly go over some instructional models. The video won't go into the detail. We're going to provide that on our website. And then give you a couple quick updates from TEA, and then just a quick request that I have of you as we enter into our off week for the school district. So before we get started, I just want to quickly thank the people who have been working year-round to make sure that we get school opened up safely in the 2020-2021 school year. We have year-round employees who are up here and up in the buildings and working on construction projects and cleaning and planning. So obviously we can't get anything done to open up in August without all of that happening. So first, thanks to them. So let me give you a quick TE update before I jump into where we're at as a school district. So TEA is obviously the Texas Education Agency, and we rely on them for some guidance on instructional practices, instructional models, safety protocols as we move through this pandemic planning. So quick timeline. On June the 22nd, and some of you may have seen this, but on June the 22nd, we did a workshop with our board, had some fantastic Q&A from our board as we were talking about some of the instructional models that we had been thinking about and working on. That allowed our staff to start thinking through how to fine-tune some things as well. And then the very next day, on June the 23rd, we received guidance from TEA on how to manage a remote learning experience from our students, which then gave us even more information to plan for our instructional models. And so really that's the reason that we're on this video today, because we've been able to really dial in what we're going to be able to offer. I want to quickly explain a couple of those things. And then add one more thing to this. So at today's date, I'm time stamping it. It is July the 1st when I'm making this recording. As of today, we haven't received anything in terms of in-school safety protocols from TEA. I know they're working hard. They're trying to figure out how to decode some different things in terms of what this pandemic is currently doing. But the things that we're working on in terms of safety protocols are general safety guidelines for what it would look like for kids to be back in the building. But we haven't landed those safety protocols yet because we don't want to land all of those and then something changed in terms of state level or local level health guidance. So just know that we're working on those things. But as of today, we have not received a document from TEA guiding that conversation. But when we do, we'll share it. We'll make sure it's out there. It might be tomorrow. It might be next week. We just don't know. But I wanted to get this information out to you as quickly as possible. So let's talk about models of instruction. We're looking at essentially the big boulders, the big operational, what these things will look like. Everything that I say is going to immediately jump into very detailed questions, and that's not the purpose of this conversation right now. I know there'll be a lot of detailed questions, but we got to make sure everybody has their head wrapped around what the big ideas look like. So the first big idea is in-person instruction. As of July 1st, we are planning for in-person instruction. We're planning for people to be back in the building with appropriate safety protocols in place. But what I want to be sure that people understand is that those protocols are going to involve changing how we change classes, potentially changing large congregations of students, i.e. lunch, hand sanitizer everywhere, and we'll talk about face coverings in a minute, but hand sanitizer everywhere, and just different things that that we're going to have to do differently. A lot of education about health and hygiene that we're going to have to do differently as we move into this school year. But that's the in-person piece. So yes, we're still planning on having an in-person instructional model. The other instructional model that we're working on is remote. And that's what we're calling it. So it's remote instruction. It's for the people who don't feel comfortable coming to the building. They might have their own health concerns individually, or they might have health concerns at home that they don't want to bring something home. So that's going to be offered for our students, pre-K all the way up through 12. And that's the two big instructional models we're working on. in person and remote. But there's a third piece that I want to be sure that I address really quickly in this video, and that's something we're calling hybrid, and we use the word hybrid differently in our board workshop. So I'm redefining that word right now for you. So if you listen to the board workshop, ignore what hybrid meant then. And really all this means is I want to make sure, and we want to make sure, we're offering our high school students the opportunity to not mess up a particular educational pathway that they were already on in light of this pandemic process we're working through. So hybrid is simply this. If you have decided to be a remote learner, but there's a course that really can only be taught in person, like literally it doesn't even make any sense for it to be remote. We don't want to exclude that remote learner from that in-person course if they're comfortable enough coming in to take that one course and then leaving and taking the rest of their stuff remotely. That's all hybrid means. So we are working on right now trying to identify what courses can really only be in-person courses, can really only be taught in person. And then that will allow any student who opts in for the remote learning piece to make a decision on whether or not they need to or feel like they still want to come in just for that one course and then leave, which we just didn't want to close that door on our kids. Still your choice, still your option, but we just didn't want to close that door before giving you that option. So know that those are the three big pieces: in-person, remote, and then hybrid, which is essentially a remote student taking one, maybe two in-person courses. Now, there's going to be some common sense involved in that remote taking in person. We can't obviously come in and say, well, I want to do in person and then I want to do remote. I'm going to leave and then I'm going to come back for in person. That makes no sense because you'll be missing a lot of coursework going back and forth. So there's going to be a lot of nuance to how that works, but just know that the opportunity is going to be there and we'll work through as much as that as we can to get it done. The other piece I want to make sure teachers hear me say is that there is not going to be an expectation of a teacher who's teaching in person also having to teach remotely. We're currently right now training about 200, currently continuing to train 200 teachers on remote instruction. It's not going to be the request to say, well, thanks for training remotely, now you get to do both. We're going to need a good pool of teachers, a large pool of teachers to help with our remote teaching and learning. So just make sure you understand that's not going to be the request. Could there be a teacher who says, I would like to do both because my particular class that's just the way it works. And I want to make sure I've got enough kids in there. So if it means having to kill my class or to mix it up where one period I do remote and one period I do in person, will I be able to do that? Absolutely. So we're not saying you can't do it. We're just saying we're not going to make you do that as a rule of thumb. So just understand that piece, and I think that was a concern that some of our teachers had. I wanted to take that off your plate if that's a point of anxiety. All of our information we're going to have on our website. It's going to be at www.kellerisd.net/back to school, and that's all spelled out, no numbers in there. Back to school is // I think I was corrected on that before, but I probably said the wrong thing. But it'll be on our website. You can get the information there. Again, this is a high-level video, but the detail will be on our website. There'll be a graphic, a PDF that explains remote more in detail, explains in person, explains hybrid more in detail. But you can get everything you need on our back to school site. So here's what we need, or here's what I'm asking of you as I close this out now that I've gone over a couple of the things. Like I said, it's July the 1st. We close down as a district this coming week. So every year we close down the week of July the 4th, and that happens to be on a Saturday to a Saturday, and then we're back in on July the 13th. It would help us a ton as we plan for how many teachers we need, how many sections do we need to start getting a little bit more of a dialed-in idea from where parents and students currently are sitting. So what you're going to see coming from us along with this video is a survey that asks you which one of those three things might you be likely to select. And it's going to differentiate two things. So I want to address it really fast. The two things it's going to differentiate between is the issue of face coverings. I've received quite a bit of information, quite a bit of feedback from our community about either mandating face coverings or making it a parent-student choice regarding face coverings. Those decisions have not been made. So what I'm asking for is feedback in both of those scenarios so that we can get a better handle on the number of kids that we can anticipate being either coming to campus or staying remote. And it's going to be in both those scenarios. So one of those scenarios is if face coverings based on a properly created policy is in some level asked of or mandated, what will you choose if that's the case? If face coverings are optional, what will you choose if that's the case? And again, this is a parent response that we're asking for. So we've already surveyed our teachers regarding how they feel and in terms of how they feel safe in their classroom, what will they need? And so now we're asking our parents for some feedback on that. As soon as we get guidance from TEA, as soon as we get guidance from local health officials, we'll be able to dial in that face covering policy a little bit more. But again, we got a month and a half before school opens, and just like Tarrant County had to make a shift on the fly just a week ago, we might be making some of those shifts on the fly as we move closer and closer to the school year. So just be aware that we're looking at both of those things, but I do need to start getting some ideas of both those scenarios so that we can, again, properly plan as we come back on July the 13th and moving through July. But ultimately, here's the closing statement. Get all the detailed information from the website. These pieces are still going to be tweaked, but generally speaking, this is the direction we're going to be working on. But this is 100% going to be a community effort. We're going to try to create the best opportunities we can for our kids. But without parent involvement, without teachers and parents working together, without parents working with our campuses and our administrative staff and district staff, we won't be able to get this figured out in the best way possible. So just know that the way we're going to be able to move forward is by doing this, by continuing to have the conversation, letting you know what we're trying to plan on, feedback that we need from you. And then as we push further into July, towards the end of July, that's when specific course requests might need to start changing based on I want to be virtual or remote, or I want to be in person. But that's another, I guess, ask of me is that we will do this together, and it's going to be great together. But as we go, we're going to need some of these pieces. We just need some help on feedback. So anyway, I went through that as fast as I can because I know people's attention span is a little short on videos. So that's where we're at right now in Keller. It's July the 1st. We're getting ready to shut it down for a week, and I've told all my people they have got to shut down for a week to recharge because we've got a long road ahead of us. But we're going to get through that road great, and honestly, this is going to be a great year coming up. It's going to be weird, but it's going to be a great year coming up because we're going to work together and get there. So thanks for listening. The website will be up and running, and I'm going to ask you to get that survey going for us as fast as possible, and hope you're having a fantastic summer, and we'll talk to you again in July. Take care.